Here's a game that needs no introduction. Unless you were living under a rock or a blind Sega fanboy, there's a good chance that if you didn't own this game, you definitely rented it or played it at a friend's house back in the day. Donkey Kong Country set new visual standards we could never imagine were possible on the 16-bit consoles, thanks to Rare's ingenious idea to take 3D models created on a Silicon graphics workstation and digitize them into two-dimensional sprites for the Super Nintendo to handle, thus creating graphics that looked light years above anything we had seen on any of the 16-bit consoles so far. If everything else in the fourth generation was 16-bit, this game had to be at least 17-bit. Donkey Kong Country was more than just pretty graphics. On top of its shiny visuals, the game showcases fantastic level designs, putting Rare's development talents on full display. Sure, you've got your underwater levels, your barrel levels that require fast reflexes and perfect timing, and your minecart levels of dread. However, the core experience features levels permeated with hidden areas and objects to find, giving it a ton of gameplay depth for those who care to search for it. Like any great 2D platformer, Donkey Kong Country leaves the choice in the player's hands of how to play the game. Players can simply run from start to finish just to beat the level, or choose to explore the levels a little more carefully, trying to find all the hidden areas that are skillfully honeycombed throughout the levels. Players can find and collect the Kong for extra life, and even collect 3 animal tokens to play an extra mini-game where every 100 tokens you collect equals an extra life after the timer runs out. The levels aren't as complex in design as the levels in a Sonic game where there are 10 different paths to get to the end. Donkey Kong Country has a more simple and straightforward design structure like Mario, one main path from left to right, but with tons of hidden items and areas to find along the way. The secret areas usually contain mini-games where you collect golden bananas to gain extra lives. Like the coins in Mario, 100 bananas equals an extra life. There are also other kinds of levels besides the traditional platformer kind thrown in for good measure. These are the toughest levels in the game, for example moving platforms and minecarts that require memorization and trial and error. Most of these are the toughest levels in the game and require precision and lots of restarts. These levels are tough, inventive, and some of the most remembered levels in the game, because they probably tormented a lot of gamers in childhood. But man, that feeling of accomplishment when you finally beat one. I didn't play a lot of platformers during the 16-bit era, personally. My Genesis came with Sonic 2, but being late Super Nintendo adopters, we chose the Super Nintendo that had A Link to the Past as the pack-in by choice. That was the game that we finally convinced ourselves that we needed to buy a Super Nintendo for. Once we got the Super Nintendo, we played mostly RPGs, and in general, the whole era, we played beat-em-ups, fighting games, and various other genres. I did play quite a bit of Super Mario World at friends' houses because everyone who had a Super Nintendo owned that game. I didn't pick this game up until almost a decade after its release. I bought it for $10 from a friend who later sold me the rest of his Super Nintendo games for $20, which also scored me both of its sequels and a few other less interesting Super Nintendo games. This means that I got to finally play through it years removed from the hype and even after the graphical luster had faded. 10 years removed from its highest height in popularity when I was already enjoying PS2, GameCube, and Xbox games, I still came away from Donkey Kong Country saying, man, this is a great game. By default, Sonic 2 will always be my favorite 2D platformer of that entire generation. However, I can honestly say that Donkey Kong Country is probably my second favorite 16-bit platformer of all time. No disrespect to Super Mario World or the other top-tier platformers of that generation, Donkey Kong Country just hit better 10 years later. From its exceptional level designs to its well-designed gameplay mechanics and amazing sound, I came away from this game actually loving it. The controls are smooth and spot on, yes, even in the minecart levels, and the other various maneuvers are easy to pull off as well. The mechanic where you swap between Diddy and Donkey at any time to take advantage of their different abilities is also a great design choice that becomes an integral part of fully exploring the levels, and is seamless with the responsive controls, as are the tough barrel levels which require split-second timing. Rare perfected the controls in this game. The music is another high spot in the game. The soundtrack is so good, they even released it and sold it separately. If you have an extra $200 to $700, you can pick up the American version of the soundtrack on CD on eBay. You can even pick up a 3-pack of the Japanese CD versions for all 3 Donkey Kong Country games for the super cheap price of $5,382. Smoking deal, folks. Smoking deal. The sound effects in the game are also an incredible part of the sound design. I don't know what it is, but they've always had sort of an ASMR effect for me. They're actually pleasing to my ears. I remember when the Game Boy Advance version came out, seeing a terrible review in Electronic Gaming Monthly tearing into the game, saying it was always overrated, and one of the big reasons was, look at those graphics. I would show you the review if I could find my magazines at the moment, but all my gaming magazines are currently buried in storage. However, it was a terrible review, and it was obvious just by the screenshots the GBA version had some issues. It's actually not a terrible playing port, but all you can say is, well, they tried. Bless their little hearts. There was also later backlash against Rare from Nintendo fans, at least the blind Nintendo fanboy types, after Microsoft bought them, where these fans suddenly came to the realization that, well, all of Rare's games are overrated. I never liked them anyways. I mean, Mario was always better than Donkey Kong Country, so overrated. While I do believe that phase has passed, for a while there was a bit of a consensus floating around that Donkey Kong Country was overrated, pushed by gaming publications and disgruntled Nintendo fanboys. So, was this game way overhyped because of its graphics at its release? Well, yeah, probably. But looking from a gameplay and design standpoint, this is still one of the best playing, best designed platformers of the 4th generation. The bottom line, nothing against Super Mario World, it's a great game with masterful design. However, the rise of Sonic in the 16-bit era brought a new crop of 2D platformers that were fresher than your mixtape. I'm not sure what generation of 2D platformers the 4th console generation was in, but the genre arguably reached its highest peak in both popularity and design, leading to the creation of so many timeless classics in that genre. And Donkey Kong Country is one of the best to come out of that generation of gaming, hands down. Even if you are in the class that now considers the game to be overhyped and overrated, you still can't deny the quality the game presents. Donkey Kong Country wasn't just the game that helped the Super Nintendo pull far ahead of the Sega Genesis in sales. It was also one of the best platformers and one of the best games in general for that whole generation. Just as worthy to join the likes of Mario and Sonic in that classification.